Welcome back, everyone, to a special edition of Wichita Vice.
Yes, here we go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carlos. This is Marquez Christopher Eason, the off-brand Superman, straight from the Fortress of Solitude.
And right off the helicarrier, it's your Starship Captain, Chris with a K.
All right, and this is your host, Carlos. Welcome to all the Marvel, DC, Wichita Vice acolytes.
Yes.
We're all in the house. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to discuss about Thor, and we're going to talk about the Marvel villains and also the heroes. All right, before we get started, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Hero of the Month, brought to you by One Drop Game Drop, located at 2724 North Amadon. It's your hotspot for card games, flesh and blood games, and there is plenty space for game gatherings.
All right, let's go ahead and let's discuss a little about the universe of Marvel here. And today we're going to do Thor. So the villain up, Gore, the God Butcher. And I'm going to start this off with Marquez. But before I start off, let's talk a little bit about him. So he was created by Jason Eric and Assad Ribic. He appeared in Thor, God of Thunder, issue number 2. And so it says here in his powers, he has alien symbiote strength. He's got speed, stamina, shape-shifting, and regenerative healing. And in the film, he was portrayed by one of the best actors right now, Christian Bale. So, Marquez, I'm going to leave this to you. Tell me a little bit about Gore the God Butcher.
Well, I'd like to start off with the differences, the cosmetic, the visual differences from the comic to the movie. I remember him in the comic book having long, kind of like symbiotic hair, you know, and he used that almost like Venom symbiote. You know, and he was actually one of the creators of the Necro Sword. Is that right?
Well, and he was actually the first symbiote
ever.
Originally, it didn't seem like the movie quite went that way. The sword wasn't. I mean, those things, the creatures and things, did have a symbiotic look to them, kind of a Venom-esque look, but they didn't really go that deep.
Because there was a character named Null, the king of the symbiotes.
Right, and that's
in the comic. And Gore actually created the Necro Sword. I think that's the only continuity that they changed from the movie to the comic book. But as far as like his powers and abilities, I think they're really cool. And they made Christian Bale, who played Batman. You know, it's like, okay. I didn't even recognize that was him at first until halfway through the movie.
Well, and especially that intro scene.
Yeah.
When he's got the paint on it, on the markings for his tribal markings or whatever. And then just being the opening scene's pretty it's pretty phenomenal in that movie, just how dry he is. But it's really hard to tell that it was. I was like, I know that's him, but man, it doesn't look like him.
Because I didn't want to going in. I didn't want to see any of the cast. I just wanted to go completely in and just kind of, you know. And that's one of the things I don't like about spoilers is because a lot of times it ruins the integrity of the movie a little bit, you know. So I try not to do spoilers, but no, I was shocked. I was like, that's Batman. You know. And that's how I kept referring to him as Batman. I was like, no, Christian Bale. But no, I mean, he is, for like his namesake, he's a God Butcher. You know, he thinks that the gods are kind of a blight on the universe, and he used the Necro Sword to slay gods. That's pretty much what his motivation is.
And to the fans out there, when you said the word Necro Sword, you know that sword has come from Venom. Is it Venom part of that symbiote?
Yeah, the symbiotic. Yeah.
Okay, so
in the comic,
in the comic book side. Now that being said, Marquez, we know that the director was to make the God Butcher, because did you notice the God Butcher kind of looks like that villain from Harry Potter?
Yeah.
They had that kind of same look. So they gave him more of a dimensional look so they could differentiate from that. Because if you look at the comic books and look at, what's the villain's name in Harry Potter, that guy's name?
Voldemort.
They look alike. They look
alike. I didn't want to draw that parallel because everyone says that's the same character in Stranger Things. They also look and behave a lot like that. You know, these dark, nihilistic creature type of villains, you know what I mean, that are from some weird underworld that, you know, is trying to reach up and devour everything. And I want to say that, you know, Gore the God Butcher is his own thing, but you have to admit the similarities. I mean, especially cosmetically, they do look similar. you know, except he does have a nose, you know.
Yeah.
And then also too in the comic books, Gore is on this rampage. I mean, they didn't really specifically show, but they talked about it. He was killing gods left and right.
Yes, he was.
And he was it was kind of like General Grievous in Star Wars collecting those Jedi
lightsabers. Yeah,
he's like, got another one. And here's the deal with Gore. It's kind of amazing that Gore is not really an old character. He's kind of a new character, and for him to be able to be portrayed already it's kind of a compliment to the creators, because it's like, wow, my character was that good. Now he's going to have his own movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And especially being played by Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Christian Bale brought a lot of that emotions in that character, and I like that. Very different from previous characters, because with him, he's got a purpose. I mean, that opening scene knows, and the spoiler alert for the people that haven't seen the movie, that it was just very deep. And in the comic book, he lost kids, and we know he lost his wife. And I'd be mad too. I would be pretty upset too. And then when you see that he's just going on this rampage, I mean, in the comic books, he was beating up Thor from the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah.
So to him, it's like, oh, this guy again. And it was a menace. He was a menace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's a character ultimately that's driven by loss. You know, that's pretty much what drives him to do what he does, you know what I mean? And you could argue that, you know, the way his sun god treated him, you can argue, okay, who's the villain here?
Right.
You know, I mean, there's a lot to be said about having high expectations, and then those expectations aren't met. You know, it does put you in a state of, okay, how do I rectify this?
I do keep going.
I'm sorry. No. And just, and that kind of became the path that he was set upon, and you could really, I think Christian Bale did a good job at portraying the whole loss and the depth of pain that we saw him experience, because, you know, I always told myself at some point I would have a baby girl, you know. I haven't gotten around to that yet, but no, and that's kind of like, oh man, you know, that's his daughter, that's his baby girl, you know. How do you know, and I was like, okay, we're going to see something special now. We're going to see some really dark, gritty stuff here come out of this character, you know.
Well, and what I was going to say, one of the things I think most comic book movies, to be a good one, you really need a really good villain, and I think we've seen it in past movies. This version of Gore is a really good one. I think just in general, though, even the beginning of Gore in the comic books, I mean, we've all felt like you were saying, just that, you know, he loses his daughter, and maybe you haven't lost a daughter, but you felt lost before, or even to the point what he's really feeling is forsaken, that his God that he's spent his whole life and his whole people have all spent everything just worshiping for nothing at the end. He's
exactly.
Like, and so I'm sure there's a little bit of everybody that's like, they kind of deserve that, didn't they? Especially the one that's laughing in his face.
And you know, and that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, I prayed to you. What else do you want from me? You know, he's like, what else can I do to make this right? And he had the power to help him, but he just chose not to.
And I would guess in the comic books, he never has a turnaround. I don't want to get too far.
No, he doesn't. He's on a rampage.
Too much. Like he's always rampaging. He
Yeah.
never has a resolution.
No.
He's a butcher.
Yeah.
So therefore, yes, we seen he was portrayed really well by Christian Bale.
Yes.
So in the comic books, if you want to follow more, I mean, he's there. I mean, start off with that comic book of Thor, God of Thunder, and we'll know more about the backstory of Gore. Let's go ahead and move on to the next villain. We have Pluto. Pluto was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Appeared in the issue of Thor, issue 127. And so a little bit about him is he's got high-level magic energies, visibility with the use of his helmet. So I'm going to start this off with you, Chris. Tell me a little bit about him.
Well, he was the brother of Zeus and Neptune in the Greek god kind of the world of the gods. Olympia.
Yeah.
Olympia, that's it.
Yeah, Olympus.
And so this is where Marvel Comics really continues that croach into the mythology. You know, we're talking about Thor here, so he's a Viking god essentially for our mythologies.
Yeah.
We see in the recent movies, we see Zeus is coming about. So I think it's it's just part of that delving. But he's the god of the underworld. So there's a lot of fighting in the underworld.
Yeah, yes.
There's always someone that gets stuck there trying to get out.
Yeah.
And Thor, I know, has quite a few run-ins with Pluto.
Yeah.
Hulk, I think, has some in the Agents of Smash. But
Yeah.
he's a god, so you've got it's not something you really kill. Heroes not gonna at first they don't kill.
No.
And so a god's not just gonna die off by himself. And so you have to outsmart them and trick them into falling for their own mishaps and stuff like that. But he's a big guy. He's strong. He's got lots of power.
Yeah. Plus, he's the brother of the king of the gods.
Yeah, that's.
So,
I mean, he's
yeah.
one of the original. That's the Zeus, Neptune, and him. One of the original trilogy of God.
Yeah.
I wonder, Marquez, maybe in the next phases of Marvel, if they're going to start introducing Greek mythology. So we already got to start. You already seen Zeus. You've already seen Hercules coming up. Now, who's coming up in that area?
Oh, there's so many characters that could
say. Not only that, you have Moon Knight, who is Khonshu, an Egyptian god.
Yes.
There was. They're really getting into the mythology.
What about the Eternals? Are they part? Or they're a whole different? They're more of cosmos, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't remember them portraying themselves as gods ever during humanities. Like they're not really allowed to do that.
Not in the movie.
Not in the movie. There was a couple that kind of took on.
How about the Black Knight? What is a Black Knight considered?
Oh, he's not a god.
No, he's not.
Because he's a human that's been imbued with magic. Basically.
Yeah, he uses magical equipment.
Okay.
Like a flying horse.
Which probably gives him longer life. It probably
as long as we don't talk on the show Howard the Duck, we are good to go. Anyone talks about Howard the Duck.
But it definitely does seem like they're bringing in a lot of... They're really going to expand into mythology. Because really, when you do that, you have endless good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always got, the trickster, the this, the that.
Yeah. And with Greek mythology, there's so many characters they could bring in. Hermes, Ares, Hera.
Well, and all those mythologies have both good and bad gods.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the Vikings had Loki and Thor.
Yeah.
Depending on who you were and where you were at, Loki was good or he was bad. And same with Thor.
And it ties into the whole Titans, Thanos and this and that, what have you. And they can come do a full circle and talk about Thanos and the Titans' banishment from Mount Olympus.
Which I don't want to get in too much craziness with the movie, but did you see there was some different primordial different shots of those throughout the movie?
Yeah, and
little
they
Easter eggs,
that,
I guess.
And I thought that was so great. I just wanted to.
Even at the gates of eternity, there was.
Yeah, and it was just a great
neat
scene. It just all in all, I love that scene.
And we'll talk more about it. We'll talk more about that on check it out on Cosmos. I didn't want to steal your thunder there, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on over to the hero side. So we got Valkyrie. Valkyrie was created by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Appeared in the Avengers issue number 83, and Valkyrie's power is pretty much healing factors, teleportation, hand-to-hand combat, superhuman strength. In the films that she was portrayed in was portrayed by Tessa Thompson. So, Marquez, tell me a little bit about Valkyrie.
Well, yeah, she is one of the traditional Norse Valkyries that carry you to Valhalla once you die on the battlefield. They kind of changed her character for the movie a little bit, but in the comic book, I know the Valkyrie, they were all like a race of just extremely powerful warrior women that carried you off when you died on the battlefield.
When she does talk about her sisters.
Yeah, and how they were all killed and stuff during, I think before Ragnarok.
It was in the war. They were talking about a specific event, like watching your sisters die while something was happening.
Yeah, and I always thought that, Thor, in relation to Valkyrie, I always thought that they kind of had that whole kindredness, that whole, we're related and we stand by each other no matter what. But they kind of, they never really touched on that, because in true Norse mythology, I believe Thor and the Valkyries, he was very close. They actually helped raise them, but in the movies, they don't really talk about that. And this is what I'm saying. I don't know how close Marvel's trying to stay to Greek and Norse mythology to kind of play with her own, but it seems like such a huge departure from where they were, where Norse mythology was, and versus Marvel's Norse mythology. But I do love the actress playing Valkyrie, you know, and I would have liked to have seen her with her alongside her Valkyrie sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Was Sif a Valkyrie? I always thought Sif was Thor's original love interest before he met Jane.
Well, in the MCU,
Yeah, I thought they just grew up like.
yeah.
Yeah.
In the MCU,
That's
they
the pretty
pushed,
girl in school
They
and the
pushed
pretty
too
boy in
much
school.
Jane Foster.
Yeah.
But now, but in the comic books, Sif was lined up to be with Thor.
Yeah,
they were lined up to be with Thor, and so you know how it is. We've always discussed.
Oh,
it
yeah,
before.
yeah.
We try to stay focused on the comic book side, but we don't.
Yeah.
We don't ignore MCU, but now we're starting to get to understanding.
But
yes, MCU's MCU, and then you got the
And that's
comic
what-
books is over here. So
And that's kind of what our channel is kind of about. We point out the different continuities and similarities against the same character. Like in the continuity of the movie, though, it is replacing the continuity of the comics.
Sure.
I mean, if you guys
Well, and
watched any of the animations lately,
I
know,
haven't really seen too many of those lately.
Okay.
Like within the last year or two, I would say.
the Marvel characters are really starting to look like the movie.
They are. Yeah.
characters,
Well,
you know, they're
in
really
What
starting to
If for
have-
sure.
Yeah,
What
they're
If
starting to
is,
have even sound like the characters
Yeah,
in the
and
movies. and it's
they've
like
actually they've been doing that for a while. They've had a few
it's
come out even back in the 2010s.
Yeah.
There was a couple releases of animated stuff, and it was different storylines, but they looked just like
Yeah.
Tony Stark looked just like
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr., not vice versa.
Even the Lego stuff, guys.
Yeah,
It's starting
yeah.
to look more and sound like the movies.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if that's, I mean, for me personally, I always liked the fact that they were kind of separate but similar. I don't like, for them to just make it all one. It's easier to follow, I understand that, but the fact that you have these two sets of fans that you could cross and talk about that, you know, and I'm not one of those people who are going to say, well, the book was different or the book was better. I mean, of course the book is going to be better.
There's
than a
more that
film.
can be done.
Yeah, and you have more time. When this is what I say when people say, because I had this conversation with my brother the other day about Valkyrie. You know, when people say, well, the book's better, the thing I always ask is like, okay, well, did the book have budget restraints, time restraints, scheduling conflicts, director changes, all the things that go into making a film versus were you under pressure to get your book out at a certain time?
Probably a
Did you
little, but
change-
not on the same
you know,
level for sure.
Yeah, and furthermore to that issue, the book didn't have a standard yet, an objectifiable standard to meet, you know, because it was new. There was nothing existing. The movie has to go over that standard. So
Well,
it's you're
usually
already,
that book has one or two hands stirring the pot.
Yeah.
And the movie has
Like
20, 50
30,
hands
insane
trying
amounts
to
of.
stir.
If you look at all the credits, like the directors, the special effects, and the sound,
This one was so
the
long.
set pieces and stuff like that, and that's one of the things I tell people about the book. You have to look at it from the perspective of, even though they're similar, there are differences.
There's
you know, it's really not a fair comparison to say, okay, well, yeah, the character in the book was better, or the character in the book did this, you know, and that's why I try not to make that comparison. But the conversation we had about the Valkyrie was the fact that they didn't, in the comic book, they rarely had any personality. You rarely saw them. You know, none of that was really
They
flushed out.
Just kind of show up like, oh, it's wartime.
Yeah, and
Or
they were just
we're under attack. Here come the Valkyrie.
yeah, and that was it. So,
And her name was actually Brunhild.
yeah,
Is her actual name. She was given. They called her Valkyrie. She was the leader of the Valkyr. Which was the shield maidens for Odin and
yeah,
all
and she
those.
had magical weapons.
Yeah.
They never showcased that.
No,
in the
she.
movie.
She pulled out her sword and was high fived.
Yeah, and
Mighty Thor once.
that was it. So-
Yeah. Other than I was kind of disappointed that she didn't get a little more. I'm hoping because she's obviously sticking around.
Yeah.
Now that in the MCU, so I hope that they can highlight her a little more because I think that they've got some character there that they can really build on.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if they could do, Chris, since she's originally part of the Defenders, I wonder if they could start introducing, because you know in the in the MCU, especially when Netflix did the Defenders,
Mm-hmm.
who was
Let's say you're saying the actual Defenders.
right, the actual Defenders.
Yeah.
Because you have already like Jessica Jones, which she was not really
Yeah.
a defender, but let's say she gets her own show. She has a group of her own as well, so maybe they might introduce that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we can.
Oh, a TV series, a little 6-part series
Yeah,
set in New Asgard.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And
that'd be great,
then because we can give it out there. She's part of the Secret Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Valkyrie?
part of that. Yep, Valkyrie. So we'll see where that will lead. So before we dive into our main character, let's go ahead and give a quick pause and take our following sponsors.
Well, I don't know about you folks, but here at Sports Fellas, things can get, well, a nice right funk going on sometimes. And in that time of need, we turn to our friend Kimberly Sampson, our own personal Cincy independent consultant. She is our favorite star consultant, so for your scent needs, get a hold of Kimberly at heavenlyscentswithkim@gmail.com or visit her website, heavenlyscentswithkim.cincy.us. You can also call her at 316-282-7363. That's Kimberly Sampson at Cincy, our favorite independent consultant.
All right, you guys are one of our favorite characters in the house. We have the mighty Thor.
Yes, sir.
All right, Thor was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Larry Lieber. First appeared in Journey into Mystery, issue number 83. So let's talk a little bit about Thor and his powers. I mean, he's the god of lightning,
God of thunder.
And he's just
Thunder.
and he is powerful swag. I mean, the guy's got swag in there. I mean,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
probably
he's-
put him and Iron Man at the same time, but we're going to give the slight edge to Thor. That's the guy I want to go to the gym with.
he's
You know
just-
what I'm saying? He will give me pure gains.
He's just
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and hand it off to you, Chris. Tell me a little bit about Thor.
Thor, as we said, God of Thunder. He's been a long time stay. Well, when was he first? 1962. He first came out. Long time mainstay, well-known character. One of the I'd say one of the title characters for Marvel.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
That everybody loves. I thought he was, for me growing up, he was a little too cheesy in kind of the 80s, 90s stuff. He was just,
Yeah.
and I've really liked what they've done with the MC, especially, what they've done recently that turns kind of showing a more human. He's really trying to grow into himself. Even in like the What If series, the Party Boy Thor, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of where he's going now. But, he's good at heart. I mean, he does everything, sacrifice for his brother Loki, who's just trying to stab him in the back.
Yeah.
He's trying to please his god, trying to please the great Odin. Most of the time, if he's not trying to piss him off. Sorry. He's not trying to make him mad as a, kind of rebellious youth.
Yeah.
Not one to take over. And I mean, he's just done so many things. Of course, when you do mention Thor, you have to throw out that there's been several, not iterations, but he's got the great Mjolnir hammer.
Yeah.
That only those that are worthy that can carry that. We got to throw out that there have been others that have carried it. Hulk, Beta Ray Bill. Of course, we recently saw Jane carry it. We saw Captain America handle it a time, and I think he's done it a couple times in the comics.
Yes, especially in the Fear Itself storyline. Actually,
and so
great
he's got
story.
that, and then he's also got the weapon Stormbreaker that comes along later on, and his hammer can do everything for him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which really in the new movie, you show that you really get to see that closeness that you bond with your weapon, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And that's the thing, Thor, Odin's son. I love the father-son dynamic that they kind of touched on with in the movies with Anthony Hopkins and everything. But I always liked Thor in that, he took the best parts of humanity and made them a part of himself. And that's when he really started to grow. Compassion, reason, kindness, and I don't know if him being with Jane Foster, if that kind of helped ground him, or if
I think that's what gave him that connection to humanity. Like,
it
started opening up. Like, it's not just drinking in battle.
Yeah, because his father Odin always disapproved of him mingling with Midgard, which is what is their term for Earth, the realm of Earth. He always, that was always just kind of you shouldn't be.
Would he
you know,
kind of see us as pets or like,
yeah, that's the thing. And
like
there was always and Thor's powers. I mean, he's one of the physically strongest heroes in the Marvel universe.
Battle just plays around with Hulk regularly.
Yeah.
And they're always.
Yeah, and it's too much to go into here, but there's a Marvel comic story called Fear Itself, where you really get to see Thor's everything that he was destined to do, the whole World Serpent and everything like that. I won't go into too much of it, but one of the coolest things I've ever seen was the Avengers get Asgardian powers.
Oh, wow.
And they get to use their powers in addition to what they already have, and it just makes for this really awesome story.
Yeah, that's some they're kicking tail there.
yeah. It's really cool. And Iron Man gets a suit made out of Uru metal, similar to what Thor's hammer is made out of. But Odin said he could only use it in Asgard, or if there's an Asgardian threat.
Okay.
Yeah, so he couldn't use it. He couldn't
They do like to put little restrictions on them.
Yeah,
those
and that makes sense.
I wanted to touch up, Marquez, that yesterday we went to go see the movie, and I admired the suit.
Yes,
the suit was phenomenal. Like
the new one.
Their new one, I really liked it.
Yeah,
and
me too,
the thing is that Thor, though he's the strongest Avenger.
Yeah,
I mean he's
arguably Hulk.
I would say you can put Hulk's like held planets together.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're going way too far fetched.
Well, it depends on what the writer's trying to do. I mean,
but here's my thing. Here's my thing with Thor, though. Thor, he's got heart. That's the biggest muscle he has. He's got heart.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you watch the MCU, how they've evolved, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it on the other show. So check out the Silver Cosmo movie reviews. That he goes through this change. And when you read the comic books, how he intermingles with the Avengers and how he has the relationships with his teammates, I just like the fact that Thor is it's hard to dislike him.
Yeah, it is.
He's just a great
you
character to admire because the things that he does, and like he's willing to go to bat, willing to help any teammate when they're down, and that's why. When the MCU, when they introduced him into the Avengers, I liked how in the first Thor, he told Agent Coulson, "Hey, whenever you need something, you just let me know." So that was a smart move. Now, before we dive into our final conclusion here, I just want to know one thing. Are you very excited that Chris Hemsworth is still continuing to be Thor?
Yes, I am. When he first played Thor back in 2012, I was like, okay, I don't know anything about him, but I can't imagine anyone else in that role.
Yeah.
He's as crucial to that as Robert Downey Jr. was to Iron Man.
Yeah. Whenever he is done, which I'm not sure his exact age, but he's probably got maybe
38.
Okay, so he's got 10 to maybe 15 years of being able to pull off that role. Before he's going to start, just like Bautista's like, I can't do Drax anymore. Like, I'm 55 or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to take my shirt off on it.
Take more steroids. How's that so hard?
Oh, come on.
But eventually he's going to start
on steroids.
He's going to start showing, and you'll have to do like an old man Logan type of thing with Thor, like an old man Thor.
Yeah.
Where he's passing. But for a god, that would have to be. He's already lived thousands of years, so you're talking about something that happens somehow thousands of years in the future or something.
And Asgardians, the older they get, the more powerful they get.
Right.
So,
but you could see him being like, like Odin, I can't leave Asgard.
Yeah.
Like I have to stay, and so now because there is, I believe his daughter there. He has in the comic books, he has a daughter that eventually takes over his Thor mantle.
Yeah, he has 3 granddaughters too.
Okay.
And they eventually become Valkyries, and they're really awesome.
So I mean, as long as he can do it, and I know that I've seen that he has been. I think Chris Hemsworth at least is on board for as long as he's like, I'll keep doing it.
Which is
great, he seems
though.
like a worker. He's just he's ready to keep going. So
I can't wait to see another Avengers movie. With all of them, just the way that they pool their talents.
Yeah,
the banner between all of the Avengers, and now with Doctor Strange. Being there, I can't wait to see another Avengers.
It's going to be weird because you've got because think about all these new people you've got with all the new series. Because somehow they're going to bring in the Eternals, the leftover Eternals are going to have to work into that somewhere.
Yeah.
At least a couple of them. Cersei probably, and I don't know.
I just can't wait to start seeing X-Men, Fantastic Four.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
And then
man.
when is She-Hulk coming out?
That's this month, the end of this month?
End of this
Like
month.
July
Well,
27th?
guess what? I spoiled it out there. We're going to do She-Hulk next.
Yeah.
That's going to be our character there. So what we're going to do is we will have a Black Adam special edition. That will be, and now Black Adam comes out in November. Am I right? No, October.
October.
Yeah.
I was
So
saying
we got a little bit of ways. I know.
we also have Black Panther at the end of the year, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I believe Wakanda Forever is at the end of this year.
Have there been any trailers?
Not
Huh.
not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. They're keeping.
But Thor, they just put out trailers in May for Thor, so like it was they're, I don't know if they're holding on to it because of all the series stuff, but
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that will conclude our show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Any shout outs before we go?
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Love you guys.
Yeah, thanks guys. Sorry, my squirrel boy little guy was supposed to be here, but he got tickets to Dude Perfect. So hope you're having fun there and out of town. So hopefully he's looking forward to those. These are his notes. He's looking forward to hopping on here and giving his little
All
point
right,
of view. So.
that's awesome, Ever. Hope you're having fun out there. Also, I just want to thank all you guys that are listening. Thank you so much. I appreciate it that you guys tuning in to us. It makes us that even more excited to keep putting out content. And thanks. So tune into the next show. We'll look forward to hearing from you. We're out.
Later.